another episode of the Talkie Taka podcast. We've reconvened in the middle of the winter break for the Premier League. The games are about to start soon, and we wanted to take a look back at the FA Cup, the EFL Cup, the games from the Premier League that happened, and the games that are going to come up in this extended game week that's going to take place over the next 55 years. To start it, I have RK and Radhaji today on the panel. Boys, how have you been? How have you survived this period with not as intense football as we had in December? Radhaji, why don't you start us off?
I mean, if you mean no midweek game and just go weekend to weekend, then yeah, I guess it's not as intense as December, but it feels like a regular. We just played yesterday, so and Chelsea did too, so it feels like a regular week where we have a Sunday game and a midweek Wednesday game as well. But yeah, I mean, coming to my talkie point, beating Arsenal at Arsenal has to stand out. Um, we could have lost that game. Arsenal could have been a goal or two up at halftime, but they were wasteful. And Liverpool just hung in there and were clinical in their finishing. Well, one of them was not a finish, one of them was an own goal, but a great ball into the box and then a clinical finish from Diaz. So yeah, very similar to what happened against Fulham in the EFL Cup semi as well. Some clinical finishing when it was required. So yeah, that's my talkie moment. Just soured a bit by the Trent Alexander-Arnold injury against Arsenal, so he's going to be out for 3 weeks. Luckily, there's a winter break, so 1 week or out of that we should be okay. But yeah, the Arsenal game, lots to cheer about. Honestly, it was a hit and miss. I would have been like, chalo, if we get knocked out against Arsenal away, we can't really complain. But yeah, great bonus win for us.
Cool. RK, what's your talkie point?
Yeah, unlike Liverpool, it's been a real break, or at least felt like a real break for United, and I think it's much needed. After what happened on New Year's Eve, every United fan, really wants a break. It's kind of like what Ross said on Friends, like, we need a break. So that break is going to last for 2 more days, and then it's back to hell. But some good news, during this break also, Sancho finally leaves on loan. So, and the terms of the loan seem, at least on initial reading, whatever I have read, seem to be, really good terms for United. 3.5 million euros loan fee and almost his entire salary being paid out by Dortmund. And there's no buy option, which means if he performs well, there is a good chance that there will be some market value. So that's my talking point. Good start to the year, I would say, without any football games to talk about.
It can only get better, right? We'll see. We'll see. For my talkie point, I think I'll refer the audience back to a couple of episodes ago where I said I want Borough in the semi-final of the EFL Cup because I don't want Liverpool. I would rather not have Fulham. I'll have Borough. That's the best place scenario, and we've we've promptly went there and lost 1-0. The only good thing is it's only half time in the tie because we still have to play at home, so we'll see. And apart from that, we beat Preston in the third round of the FA Cup. As a reward, we now have to play Aston Villa. So that'll probably be the end of that journey for this season. But we'll see. So yeah, I was hoping for better news from the Riverside Stadium, but that's not turned up. One team which had a good EFL Cup, as Radhaji mentioned, was Liverpool. Won 2-1 against Fulham, winning in the Premier League as well, FA Cup everywhere, flying high, the Reds.
Can't complain. I mean, like I said, when we connected last, this was prior to the Newcastle game. Since then, Newcastle absolutely dominant performance. Really could have been a 7-0, 8-0 kind of game in any other given day. Dominant performance, loved it. One of the best performances I've seen from this team. Then a lucky, well, uh, win against Arsenal where we could have lost. And yesterday as well, it was looking bad till about 65, 70 minutes when we scored the first goal out of a complete fluke. And then the second goal was clinical, like counter-attacking as well. So, I mean, can't complain. They're getting the job done. And I know I mean, the theme of this season has been other clubs kind of talking about injury lists and things like that. But the unavailable list for Liverpool now can probably take on any of the teams in the Premier League. We're talking about the likes of Trent Alexander-Arnold, Joel Matip, Dominic Szoboszlai, Thiago Alcantara. Well, right now, Mo Salah, Andrew Robertson. So like tons of high quality first team players who should be in our team but are unavailable. It's all adding up now. I think we have just four defenders left now at the club, or maybe five if you include Kwanzaa. So it's a little rough, but can't complain. The boys are doing the job on the pitch. The atmosphere at Anfield seems to be great in the last few games as well. So yeah, things are going well, and I'm really happy with the season. This entire season has been a big bonus. I thought we're much farther along than I thought we would be this season.
Yeah, I think when I remember when Chelsea and Liverpool met with all that Caicedo stuff happening in the background, and the managers were being asked questions about these transfers, and Liverpool's midfield was the one that was being questioned more because Chelsea already had Enzo, uh, and Caicedo was coming, so it's like, oh, Chelsea sorted their situation out, even though they threw money at the situation. You got Endo, you got McAllister, and you got Szoboszlai, and all of them have worked out already. I mean, you can already say that all of them are successes.
And
Even
don't
Gravenberch.
Yeah, and Gravenberch as well, right? So Szoboszlai, he was my pick for the yearly roundup. He was my pick for the size signing of the season as well. So I mean, McAllister is just, man. Now that Szoboszlai is not in the team, and you get to see just McAllister do his thing, he's just incredible as well, playing that defensive role and actually just reinventing that role. So it's a version of the role that I never thought we would be playing, which is almost like a pressing and ball playing number six, whose job is not to kind of primary job is not to snuff out attacks and tackle and win the ball back, but yes, win the ball back, but in a different way, through pressing and through some kind of positioning and interventions and stuff like that. So um, it's it's pretty incredible. I think can't like I said a few episodes ago, from a weakness, it is actually our biggest strength right now in the time that he's away. And unfortunately, Japan is most likely going to go all the way to the finals, so he'll be out for a while. Yeah, and Gravenberch has he's the guy who came in last, so you can clearly see that his fitness levels are nowhere near the others, and he's maybe playing 60 minutes. 35 minutes odd in games, and he's the dribbling kind of midfielder who kind of gets you 30 yards up the pitch. Just give him the ball, he uses his body to shield it and can dribble the ball like 30 yards. So totally different from the kind of players that we have as well. That's the key thing. They're all so different. So we can just mix and match and play so many versions and combinations. And please, let's not forget Curtis Jones and Harvey Elliott. They've been outstanding this season. I think Curtis Jones right now could be our best midfielder in the form that he's in. So yeah, great stuff. Midfield is actually looking like a strength, even though we don't have that Caicedo type of player in our squad.
So didn't catch the highlights yesterday, rather, but will Fulham scoring first and then taking almost 50-55 more minutes and then suddenly two goals. Was it always coming, or did Liverpool have to struggle? And I think Nunes also scored two assists, right? So he's proving his worth again.
Yeah. So, okay. So the elephant in the room is going to be Nunes for a while. Dude, I cannot believe how unlucky he is.
As
I mean,
soon
he
as
misses,
as soon as
he
RK said Nunes
scores.
scored two, I'm
Yeah.
like, huh? Assist. Ah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, that's how we have to that's how we have to say it now. He scored two assists. No, but yeah, see, look, he does a lot of good work. The point still is that he misses a lot of chances. Some chances though are like really hard to stomach because they're like, perfect runs, perfect timing, gets in behind like 4 yards, 6 yards out, gets the finish on target, and then the
Open
leg of a
goal.
keeper comes in the middle. That happened against Newcastle. It happened yesterday against Fulham as well. He's having terrible luck. I just wish this luck cycle kind of turns for him. But the really good thing is, while he's having this bad luck, he's still contributing immensely to the team. So I won't say that he's back and he's showing his worth yet. Honestly, he needs to start scoring more goals, and there's no two ways around that. He is proving to be a useful player, but that's not the role that we would envision for him in the team in the next 5 years, right? So he needs to start delivering better. But yeah, to answer your question on the game, we started dominant. We were absolutely the only team in the game for 15 minutes. Then one defensive mistake from Van Dijk, a rarity, where he kind of headed the ball into the box rather than out of the action, and nobody was there to pick it up. So that they scored off it, and they could have had a few other goals in the before we scored the equalizer. They could have scored. In fact, there was a gilt-edged chance that Decordova Reed had where he could have squared the ball to almost an empty net tap in, but didn't. He went for a weird angle finish, very similar to Arsenal. I felt where they made the wrong decisions. They panicked in front of goal where they could have gone 1-0, 2-0 up in a game. Fulham didn't do that, and then Liverpool came back. And the first goal was a fluke. It looked like we needed it because we were not able to get that final third stuff working. But then the second goal was just outstanding. Like click clean finishes, Nunes running behind, Jota finding him, Nunes perfect cutback, first time finish from Gakpo. So yeah, at the end it looked like we were definitely the rightful winners. Like I think was somewhere around 2 goals on XG, while Fulham was sub one. So yeah, it was definitely the balance of play was towards us. But if you look at how the first half went, it could have been an easy Fulham win that we were talking about as well. So yeah, the two games now that Liverpool have just not really fired, but have come up when it required and won the game. So yeah, it's not can't complain, loving it.
Yeah, I think Nunes' luck is about to change. He's going to start scoring because Werner is back in the Premier League to take back his throne of highest
They
XG and
just
stuff like that.
Nazar and Drishti, just whatever Nunes has on him, please hand it over to Werner. I mean, this
Hand
guy
it back
needs,
to Werner.
yeah, he can do with a break, man, Nunes.
Yeah. A team that can do with a break potentially, and probably it'll do them good, is Arsenal. They obviously lost to Liverpool, but they've not been going great guns in the Premier League as well. They were top of the table, I think, at the start of December, and throughout December, this is my one chance to take a dig at Arsenal this season. They've scored less points than Chelsea throughout December, which takes doing, and they've lost to Fulham, they've lost to Liverpool in the league, they drew against Liverpool in the league, so stuff like that. No wins, I think, or one win in the entirety of December, which was against Luton, that 97th or 98th minute goal by Declan Rice. So suddenly it's like things have broken down for them, and definitely what they're missing is a proven goal scorer, which is why I'm hearing these rumors about Tony and Osimhen to Arsenal. I don't know if you guys have any info on this, or if you think any of these would be a good move.
So, what I'm reading, Swag, is that Arsenal, just like Manchester United and just like potentially Chelsea would, they're having serious FFP issues as well. So I don't. So from what I'm hearing, somebody like Osimhen is just out of the question, and Tony as well. So apparently Raya was a loan, and there's something in the rules about getting multiple players on loan from the same club, and also the fact that Brentford will not probably want to lose two of their star assets on loan in the same. So it's that is also looking like a pretty impossible kind of move from what I've been reading. So these two names, from what I've been hearing on podcasts that cover all the other Premier League clubs, it looks like it's not as straightforward as you thought. And I was very surprised to hear that Arsenal are not surprised in the sense that I know they've spent a shit ton of money, including this summer about getting Declan Rice for 100 million and stuff. But I didn't expect them to be in like potential FFP levels of turmoil. So yeah, but it's not going to be easy for them to sign big players, at least in January. So yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not so sure. And I think Arteta has indicated that as well. He's like, fans have to be patient. Most likely, don't think anything significant can be done. He's kind of giving those kinds of messages in the press as well. So yeah, I don't expect much.
I think the whole season we were kind of, uh, like viewing Arsenal from two prisms, right? One, we were saying that Arsenal are not playing well, but they are finding a way to win, which shows a real champion resilience. At the same time, we were also saying that, these are the issues that Arsenal have compared to last season. They're not able to build up play as fluidly. They're not able to, probably create as many chances as they used to. And it's the defense, their off the ball shape and work ethic that was carrying them. It looks like the latter part is now, the like the more correct assessment, because we were always worried that the like not being able to convert matches, having too many close matches is ultimately, if you don't start performing, it's going to hurt you. And I think that's where Arsenal are in the like in, in the month of the December. So I think that's something which Arteta has to correct really soon. How, like, it's a game of fine margins for me. I don't think Arsenal have been much worse than they have been the whole season. It's been like a difference of 10-15%. But in the initial few games, they were struggling for a bit of intensity that was shown even in the Fulham game, and they paid for that. The finishing has been a problem. Like all through the season, we have talked about it multiple times. Jesus, I think is one of the primary like names that I think Alan Shearer has also been very very critical about him. And but against Liverpool, I thought that intensity wise, Arsenal were very good. They dominated large parts of the game. It seemed like Arsenal are back. The intense Arsenal that we know are back. But again, something or the other keeps failing, right? So. And again against Liverpool, it was the finishing only. Whether it was Havertz, I think this time Havertz was the main culprit.
Yeah, so okay, that's the point. I don't think it's very easy to paint a target like Jesus is there to be taken, right? We all know that that's his kind of style of play is not his clinical finisher, but actually it's across the board. Just look at Martinelli. So in the game against Liverpool, Arsenal were anyway dominant, but when Martinelli came on, he had these two plays where he roasted Alexander Arnold, right? First, it looked to me that Alexander Arnold was almost like not even trying to make a tackle. He just stood there, let him get past, and Konate came in and took the ball both times. And it's like, what is he doing? What is Gabriel Martinelli doing with it? The one time he got past somebody and then crossed the ball into absolutely nowhere. And then he's also had some problems with finishing. So I don't think it's just Jesus. In fact, I would go so far to say that Jesus' contributions to that play is even more than the likes of Martinelli. And Saka seems to be like kind of, I think, fatiguing a bit, or something seems to be dropping in terms of his ability to beat a man as well, which is something that we never used to think. He was always able to beat a man, even though he's had some bad patches in the past. So that's another one to watch out for. And you called out very rightly, I think, in a couple of episodes ago, that they don't have depth. So who are they going to bring in if it's not? I think Trossard is actually a very solid player, but I don't think they rotate enough and they don't really give these people breathers, especially Saka. So that's something that is there to look out for. And I think it's very clear. I don't think anybody can argue against that. Havertz just doesn't make sense. Like if you were trying to bring him in as that link up midfielder, then he's not really doing a bang up amazing job. If you were to bringing him in for a finishing game, then that's just silly. He's definitely not that kind of guy, and they're struggling there. But I mentioned something when they lost the previous game as well about them losing their heads. I thought a little bit of that was back in the Liverpool game. If you even see the free kick that they conceded, where Trent eventually put that ball in and they scored, and like just very remonstrating and just pumping his fists and thumping it. They look like people who are like, "Oh, I can't believe you guys are doing this to us." And that maturity when Liverpool scored the first goal that Arsenal have showed in last season and previous seasons, where it doesn't matter if the opponent scores a goal, we have belief in ourselves. I didn't get that vibe at all once we scored a goal against them. So yeah, I'm a little worried about that mentality aspect as well. And now if you look at the last 5-6 games, they've won one and lost like three or four. So yeah, it's a bit of a mentally, I think questions are to be asked. And considering that was their problem last year, it's worrying.
Yeah, Havertz seems to be one of the main problems for Arsenal because, and a lot of Arsenal watchers keep commenting on that. One of the reasons that Arsenal are not fluid is because Arsenal, replaced Xhaka. And Xhaka's contribution, I think, last season, the more we see these kind of struggles from Havertz, the more it highlights, while we may be writing off Xhaka for his history, but he had a really great season, last year. And Arsenal are really missing that ball progression once they cross the halfway line, right? Rice has been outstanding for them. Odegaard continues to be outstanding, but on the left side, they just like completely miss that link. Havertz, he does a lot of off the ball things well. Pressing, shape, etc. is good. But on the ball, even in his Bundesliga heyday, when what made Chelsea get him, he wasn't a great assister. So he's not a great creator. He can keep the ball fairly well, but he's not a great ball progressor. He's not a great creator. And his main thing is getting into the box and scoring. That's supposed to be his USP, but that's also not really coming to the fore. He's missing chances. Havertz looks like when you pay 65 million and get someone like him in a number 8 role, you immediately start thinking, and this has been the talk all through the summer, right? Why couldn't Arteta really go and get a pure number 8? And when I look at Saka also, I completely agree with you. I think he's had a few breaks in between. It's not like he's playing every game, but even then he looks jaded. That's something really really wrong there.
Yeah, you mentioned a really interesting point, RK, about the signings and the fees, right? If you look at the amount of money that they've spent, and this is something that I think we talked about in when we were talking about the worst club and stuff like that. And this was a criticism that I labeled on Chelsea, right? Like if you spent the money that you have, how are we having discussions about the fact that you don't have certain players in certain positions or certain depth? How is it logical that we have that conversation? And we're having that conversation about Arsenal. The kind of money that they've spent in the last few seasons, the depth is quite low. Like last year we were talking about Reece Nelson coming off the bench. Here we've got Trossard, which is yes a level up, but it's still not across the board in all positions where they have backups, right? So then you begin to question: was it really wise to spend 100 million on one player? Yes, I think Declan Rice is one of the signings of the season. I think he's transformational in nature. He could be like that. Has the only 150 odd million to spend, just sign two players for 165. Because Liverpool was faced with this conundrum when the whole Bellingham thing was up and about, right? Like Bellingham and Mount. So there were like 60 million and 100 million kind of fees being quoted for the two of them with huge wages as well. So, and we took a call that, okay, that's not probably, we'll probably get three players that we need in those positions. And we took a different call to not go and get that one on their part. I didn't think it was a mistake until I heard that they're in FFP trouble. But if they're in FFP trouble now, they're not going to be able to strengthen. So then it does seem like a mistake. And the other part is the goalkeeping situation. See, from I was surprised to see the stats on Ramsdale that he was underperforming on XG last year because I thought he was outstanding. But he's still underperforming this year. He's played just 4 games and he's conceded 2 goals less more than XG should have. And Raya's even worse. He's conceded 3 goals more than XG. But he's of course played more games. So there it's not making sense as well. And he was a loan signing. So it looks like they're trying to find value in the market because they don't have the money. So then I'm really beginning to question some of the fees and some of the decisions they've made in the transfer market. And we know that after Arteta's promotion, he's pretty much involved in all of that. So then you have to hold him accountable as well.
Yeah, I think the only thing where we can say bad luck to Arsenal is Timber getting injured. He would probably have been a really progressive force, playing on either right back, left back. But other than that, you look at Fabio Vieira, he's not really contributing to depth. He's not really playing that many games as we would like to. I'm not sure. Probably he's had his share of injuries as well, but we are not seeing, really seeing him there. Nikitia, I think personally for me, his time has come. Maybe not this winter, but he's a saleable asset which Arsenal should look to get as much out of and look to reinvest in their squad as well.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see how Arsenal approach this window. Radha's obviously said that FFP will define quite a lot of activity in terms of how they go about it. Just before we move on from Arsenal, just interesting to note that since the last 2 years, obviously because of on-pitch activity, we've not heard so much about the Cronkies, and there have not been many protests about them. You hardly hear anything about the Cronkies, even from folks like AFTV. I'm assuming. I mean, Arun can probably fill us on that, but yeah, maybe that's something that Sir Jim Ratcliffe can take a look at once he takes charge of United.
And the interesting part about FFP, I also read recently or a couple of days back that Newcastle are also have had a loss, of 73 million.
Okay.
So Newcastle very much at risk of FFP as well. So I think we are not going to see anything major from Newcastle unless they have some trick up their sleeve.
I mean, they have some clubs up their sleeve. Maybe something
Um,
happens from there
I think let's not rule this out. Man City are the highest revenue club in the world, RK. You're
for
like
now.
hundreds of years of Real Madrid being the most, having their own TV deal, having their own success in every possible competition, and Man City are the highest, revenue generating club in the world. So please, I think Newcastle will soon become the highest revenue generating club
Yeah.
in the world.
That's
Completely
okay.
legitimately, though, of course, completely legit.
That's completely okay as long as like Huddersfield fans say they can't, they still have 20K empty seats in their stadium.
We'll see. Moving on to a club which can also face FFP troubles and which I think next season will definitely face FFP trouble is Chelsea. Um, I think, I mean, yeah, everyone keeps saying, oh, this is so clever. They've put them on 8-year deals and stuff like that. To sustain that, you need to keep selling all those homegrown talents for 50 million every year. So I'm not sure how many of these we have left which can be sold for 50, 60 million, but we'll see. Thank you for Mount RK. Uh, Chelsea had a mixed bag recently. They've beaten Luton, even though it became very nervy. Went into a 3-0 lead, then Luton scored twice in the last 10 minutes, and they even had a chance after that to equalize. Then we beat Preston, where the first half was meh, to be honest. And then we picked up in the second half, but could not beat Borough away. And that feels pretty on theme with Chelsea this season. Blow hot, blow cold, good one day, average the other, terrible the third, and oscillating between these three states of matter every game day. So I don't know if you guys have anything to add on the state of affairs at Chelsea.
So is the winter transfer completely closed? There's no hope of
So
some
Poch,
100, 400 million getting spent.
after Borough, Poch did say that we don't need to sell to buy. I don't know what the quantum of buy he's looking for after that. Honestly, I don't think Osimhen is going anywhere in the European leagues. Kvaratskhelia agent has triggered a war by saying that he's going to go to Saudi, and Osimhen and his agent have gone out and publicly issued statements that Kvaratskhelia agent is doing hogwash, and that's not true, and I'm just committed to Napoli and stuff like that. I honestly don't know, and I'm not sure if that. I mean, I said that in the summer as well. I'm not sure if that's the correct move, or is it probably better to just accept what's happening and maybe another season outside of Europe, which might be bad for us financially and probably might give us a hit or a penalty in terms of FFP. But if it's a European penalty, it'll have to be looked at later because we're not going to be in Europe next season unless we win the EFL Cup. So I'm not so sure. Maybe if we sell Trevor Chalobah, maybe we can get someone in. He seems to have generated interest from Bayern and some other clubs. We'll see. But yeah, to be honest, it looks to me as if Nkunku is fit, if Lavia comes back, these are looking more like new signings now because they've not played so much.
So Lavia's an important one, I guess. But how? So two questions, Swag. What have
Hmm.
you made of Caicedo? And the second one is, I had the worst signing. My worst signing shout was, who's the Ukrainian winger, Mudryk. So
Mudryk, yeah.
what is your take on him as well? So just on Caicedo and Mudryk.
Yeah, I mean, I had the same reaction as RK when you started talking about Mudryk that episode. I thought you were talking about Anthony, and I think Mudryk's improving. He actually got the award for the best player of the game week for the EFL Cup, the quarterfinals, not the semifinals, obviously. He seems to be gelling better. Chelsea, as I keep saying, is an extremely long-term project because you've got so many kids in there. Noni Madueke was an example being touted as, okay, Poch doesn't like him, his attitude, he was seen partying and stuff like that. He's given him a chance, he's turned it around, he's now regularly featuring in the starting 11. Mudryk is showing those same signs as well, but again, he's inconsistent. I'm not sure if I would call him the worst signing. Of course, the price tag doesn't help, and I think that's the case with Caicedo as well. I think the price tag is really playing on his mind. If I can throw in an example from a different sport, when Ishan Kishan went for 15.5 in the IPL that season, he was properly shite. Um, I think it's a bit of that for Caicedo as well, plus a lot of upheaval. He's been traveling quite a lot because of the South American qualifiers. He did give an interview about how he's confident that things will turn around. I hope that is the case because no one's going to fork out the kind of money if we wanted to move him on. So we would take a massive hit in case Caicedo was to be sold, which I'm not sure that anyone's even contemplating for the next 3, 4 years at least, considering his contract is 8.5. Um, I would say that the biggest disappointments for me this season are definitely the medical situation. You look at, like, Poch wanted to play with one fullback bombing forward, the other staying back to form a defensive line. Chilwell out, James out, staying out. Gusto comes in, gets red carded, gets injured. Ian Martin, who should have been the other fullback, has not been played in that position by Poch. He's going to Dortmund, which, given all the history of Dortmund with young players, should tell you something that we probably don't know. Um, so I'm not so sure. We've been playing Colville, Disasi at fullback positions. It's not worked out well. I mean, questions need to be asked of Poch as well. I don't see him at being any sort of threat of firing, even though there are some Twitter headlines about this, particularly after Boro. But I think at least this season he's definitely there, and we'll see at the end of the season how this pans out. But I mean, I'm hopeful. I just don't want to look at the score lines for this season. I'm like, um, can we just ignore what it is, or in Football Manager terms, can we just simulate the season and see at the end of the end of the season where we end up?
Go on holiday.
Yeah.
So RK, that's an interesting thing that Swag mentioned about the price tag. So is price tag the reason for Anthony also?
If you mean compared to market value, how much they have been bought for, I would feel definitely yes, because United scouting department valued him at 25 million during Solskjaer's time, and he was bought for 85 million. So that's 3.5 times what we ourselves valued him. And he looks like a 25 million player. If we try to sell Anthony in the summer, I think a lot of us wouldn't even bet on him getting 25 million. So I think the lesser we talk of Anthony, the better. But the only positive thing to note whenever I talk of Anthony, the first name that comes to mind right now is Garnacho, because Garnacho has been able to transition to the right wing pretty well in the couple of games that he's played there, which we didn't really expect, because all through his academy years and whenever he's played for United, he's been a left winger predominantly, and he had a couple of games on the right. I think maybe one during preseason and one during the season, but that didn't go so well. But recently, he's really done well from there. He still has sometimes when he plays on that right side. So hopefully, with Amad Diallo also not yet match fit, but game fit. Hopefully, between Diallo and Garnacho, as long as Rashford doesn't put up one of those Newcastle displays, lazy ass displays, we would still get to choose between either of them on the right and keep Anthony out. So I would say that's the only positive news I have about Anthony. But I think yeah, I already talked about it. The other right winger that we had, the other candidate that we had on the right wing, he's already gone on loan. So it really looks like a jinxed spot as well. I really hope that Garnacho can do something about it.
So I
Yeah.
was listening on I think the Gary Neville podcast, or one of maybe the overlap or something, where they were talking about how the performance of the guys who've left United. Elanga has been having one of the, like, he's one of the wingers of the season there as well. So is that like a huge trick missed, or is it just that he's doing well at a small club?
Yeah, it's more of the latter. Elanga is a good player. He has really good attributes which can serve him well in the Premier League, but he never looked like a player who would be able to make it at United. Of course, you always have those sentimentalities associated with an academy player, but he was always about pace. So if he's playing in a counter-attacking team, he can run in behind, decent finish on him. But if you ask him to beat a man one-on-one, he's not really he's not very good at it. So that's where he used to struggle with United. Whenever we used to play against deeper defenses, you just couldn't expect him to kind of take on a man, beat him, put in a great cross. So he's just about a decent player, and I'm really happy for him. And probably we undersold him looking at his performances, but it's the right call to sell him.
Yeah, underselling players is something United has rather gathered a reputation for now, looking at people like Ted and Mengi as well, who are generating interest from other Premier League clubs, and you sold him for, like, I think, 1 million, if I'm not mistaken,
Yeah,
something
yeah.
like that. So yeah, you
I
undersell
think
your
I
own
think there are
academy.
Yeah, you look at James Garner as well. James
Hmm.
Garner at Everton is starting, I guess, almost every game right now. I haven't been able to see too much of him, but if he's able to start every game at a club which has not performed badly, that also says, and probably, when I look at our squad, someone like an Amrabat, we gave him a 10 million loan fee. We have sold Garner for 15 million because of FFP issues. We could just about have kept Garner and, made more use of him, I feel. So we definitely seem to get a lot of things wrong, and that's something that Radcliffe talked about when he did something last week, which Glazers have never done, which is call a town hall. Radcliffe and his some of his people were also there with him, and he spoke about what all things are wrong. So I mean, it's such small things that Glazers haven't done in 18 years. So it's
Just,
something.
just, just remind me, wasn't there a CEO or somebody? I don't remember his name, but wasn't there a guy the guy who maybe came a few years, 2, 3 years ago as the technical director or something? Didn't he have a town hall as well and invited people to voice their
Murtaugh.
concerns about the
No,
club?
no, Richard Arnold did do those kind of things. I don't think he had a town hall, but yes, he was good at reaching out to fans or staff. I'm talking of the owners,
Ah,
coming and
right,
doing
right.
it. Glazers have never done anything like that.
Mm. Standing there with a 15 slide deck going where we are, SWOT analysis, where we are going to go, strengths, financial strength, weakness, Sancho. Anyway, I'll stop my silly jokes for now. Moving swiftly on, the games that are coming up in this extended game week that I said earlier is going to go on for 10, 11 days. Two games stand out for me: United versus Spurs and Newcastle versus City. Now, Newcastle are walking wounded right now, and City are back with Kevin De Bruyne with that proper James Bond villain hairstyle. He's back for blood. I don't see Newcastle getting a look in here, to be honest, even though they're at home. United Spurs is the much more open one. United are at home, Spurs are the form team. This one should be interesting. RK, what do you think?
Yeah, look, I think of all the people on this pod, I probably have been the one least complimentary about Spurs, and that might come back and bite me. Spurs definitely, they play very well in possession, but they always give you a chance uh, in terms of conceding chances or in terms of scoring goals. That would have been a good thing to be saying, except that United can't seem to be able to finish at all. So, sorry, team in the league. So that's not something that we have to try and take advantage of that, but not sure if we'll be able to. I'm just hoping that against Spurs, some of the better things about our game come out than what we have become used to. So the second half against Aston Villa, for example, we only seem to play well when we get our press right and we are able to win the ball high up the pitch, play, in the opponent's final third. The moment that breaks down, I'm still no one is convinced about the other parts of United's game. So the hope for United fans would be play aggressively, try to keep them in their half, and try to create chances that way. And on the inevitable counters that Son and company are going to get, hope for the best. So I think that's the
There's
only
no
way for
There's no
Son.
Spurs to
Save
win.
your
Son.
jinx. Save
Yeah.
your jinxes for actual people who are going to play RK. There's no
Oh,
Son.
see, that's how out of touch United have made me. So I don't even know that Son is injured.
He's not injured. He's gone for the Asia
Oh
Cup.
yeah, yeah. Oh my.
So, but yeah, he's out for a while. But yeah, Swag on the. I don't know whether you got the same feeling, but yeah, Bond villain and all is fine. But was there a little bit of Fernando Torres in his look? I just looked at him
You
and I was
could
like
argue
thinking,
that. Yeah, I
and
can
I
see what you mean.
and I'm just hoping that it was the Fernando Torres of Chelsea and not the Fernando Torres of Liverpool, because that will be really helpful for the rest of the season for everyone else.
Yeah, I think we'll find out once the other blonde bombshell of City joins back, which I think is supposed to happen soon as well. I mean, Newcastle will be hoping it's not this week, but I think that is expected to happen in some sort of level.
Yeah,
If
I think
if not
Newcastle.
that a gothic guy will make up for that absence, Will Foden.
Yeah, I think Newcastle are done for.
Hmm.
I think this is going to be a spiraling season from here. It's very hard to plug the league in a season like this when you're out of so many players. You have to play so many people who are not used to playing, and you have to play them every week. That leads to more injuries, and it's just a constant now revolving door they're going to have of injuries for the rest of the season because people are being played out of position, they're being played too much. So it's going to go really badly for them. I think City are going to make mincemeat out of them. If or like if Haaland comes or doesn't come, I think anyway it's a done deal. I also don't know about Eddie Howe's level and ability to solve those kinds of problems. So yeah, I see Man City getting over the line easily, and I think without Son, but with Werner, you never know. But without Son, maybe United should be able to get some points there as well.
Yeah, I think Newcastle, while I definitely agree with you that they're going to get pounded by City, but for the rest of the season, given that they're out of Europe, completely similar to United, but whenever Newcastle have played well, it always looks as if the fundamentals are good. So with lesser games to play and when as and when they get more players back, I think Newcastle will still try to make a like something out of the season.
Yeah. I think on that note, we'll wrap up this edition of the Talkie Taka podcast. I think we're hopefully looking forward to a good game week for our teams. RK's kept the jinxing to a minimum, apart from trying to jinx a person who's not even in the same continent. So we'll see how these games go, and we'll
So the sorry to cut your farewell apart, but the Asian Cup, kind of talking about it, just reminded me that if not the World Cup, Indians also have a something to look forward to, even if we'll end up losing 3-0, 4-0 in at least a couple of the
chalega.
games.
At least we get to see our team on the world stage again.
If we
Yeah.
can somehow get a game against Son Heung-min or something like that, it'll be pretty
Kauro
incredible, man.
Mitoma.
Yeah, it'll be crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, so here's hoping that when we next speak, India are doing well in the Asian Cup, listeners. And going by the demographics and the analysis that we do of our podcast, I think that's around half of you. So I guess half of you are at least thinking the same thing. For the rest of you, give that a go. You might be surprised pleasantly. On that note, we'll stop here and we'll see you again in a few days. Bye bye.